When I woke up to find my Tesla vandalized by our HOA president, I had no idea it would eventually lead to me owning half the neighborhood. But as I sit here now, watching her being escorted out of her house in handcuffs, I can't help but wonder, did Karen Emily ever realize she picked a fight with the wrong millionaire? Welcome to my channel. Comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I never thought I'd be standing barefoot in my driveway at 7 a.m., coffee mug shattered at my feet, staring at long, angry scratches carved deep into the hood of my Tesla. The morning sun didn't help. It only made the damage look worse, like claw marks, savage and deliberate, stretching from headlight to windshield. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone to document the damage. Just yesterday, everything had been normal. I'd come home after a long day running my tech company, parked in my usual spot, and added a small bumper sticker to my car. It was a simple black and yellow Save the Bees sticker, nothing flashy. My daughter Emma had given it to me. She's passionate about the planet, and I wanted to support her. That's when I heard the sharp click-clack of heels on pavement. Karen Emily, our HOA president, was power-walking toward me in her pastel pantsuit, red folder of violation notices clutched tight. Behind her, my neighbor Tom Hilston was watering his roses. He gave me a knowing glance. Last month, Karen had forced him to take down his Chinese New Year decorations 2 days early. "Good morning, Mr. Walker," Karen said sweetly. Though her eyes were anything but warm, she scanned my car. "I see you've made modifications without HOA approval." She opened her folder and produced a freshly printed violation notice. "It's just a sticker," I replied, keeping my voice calm. "My daughter gave it to me." Section S, paragraph 3 of our bylaws clearly states that all exterior vehicle modifications must be approved by the committee, she said, smiling with her mouth but not with her eyes. "We have standards to maintain, property values to protect." "I'm sure you understand." Oh, I understood. Karen had transformed our once peaceful neighborhood into her own little kingdom, ruled with pastel cardigans and an iron fist. Just last week, she made elderly Mr. Bryan remove his beloved garden gnomes, calling them tacky lawn ornaments. The week before that, she harassed Linda until she tore out her vibrant vegetable garden because it wasn't on the approved plants list. "I'll take it under advisement," I said, crouching to pick up the ceramic shards of my mug. Her smile tightened. She tucked the notice under my windshield wiper. "You have 48 hours to remove the unauthorized modification," she declared, then pivoted and strode away. What Karen didn't know was that I'd recently installed security cameras around my house after a string of neighborhood car break-ins. As soon as she left, I pulled up the footage. There she was. 6:30 a.m. Karen dragging her keys across my hood, muttering something about teaching people to follow the rules. Just then, Tom hurried over, phone in hand. "I got it too," he whispered, showing me footage from his doorbell cam. "And this isn't the first time. I've been collecting evidence for weeks. She's targeting everyone who doesn't fall in line." My mind started racing. Tomorrow I was scheduled to sign the final paperwork selling my cybersecurity startup for $50 million. I hadn't told anyone. I liked the simplicity of living in a middle-class neighborhood, driving a 3-year-old Tesla, but watching Karen strut down the street to scold Linda about her wind chimes made something click inside me. "Hey Tom," I said, "how much do you know about HOA voting rights and property ownership rules in this neighborhood?" He raised an eyebrow. "I'm a real estate lawyer. Why?" I smiled, folding the violation notice into my pocket. "I think it's time we explored some investment opportunities in Oakwood Estates, but first, I had some calls to make." As I headed back inside, Karen's voice carried across the street. "Mrs. Linda, those wind chimes are not on the approved outdoor accessories list." I paused, hand on the doorknob, watching Linda's shoulders slump. Karen had no idea her tidy little empire was about to crumble. I had something far more powerful than anger on my side. I had a plan. The next morning, as I sipped my coffee, Tom knocked on my door again. His hands were shaking. "You need to see this," he said. I let him in. He kept glancing out the window, like he expected someone to be watching. His doorbell cam had captured not just one act of vandalism, but multiple. Weeks' worth. Karen in her pink bathrobe, scratching my Tesla, muttering, always muttering, each video more unhinged than the last. "There's more. Tom said, pulling a thick folder from his bag. He spread out photo after photo across my kitchen table. Mrs. Rodriguez's flower beds destroyed after she complained about landscaping changes. The Collins family's basketball hoop mysteriously snapped in half after they resisted the no sports equipment rule. Even Tom's own garden gnomes had vanished after he voted against Karen's pool renovation plan. As he talked, I opened my banking app. The $50 million deposit was real, staring me in the face. I'd stayed quiet, but now, seeing Karen's face on those tapes, something flipped. "Watch this," I said, opening the county property records. I showed Tom the shell companies. Karen wasn't just running the HOA like a tyrant. She was profiting from every forced sale, every fine. The mortgage company holding most local loans? One of her companies. Then my phone buzzed. Another violation. $500. The reason? Unauthorized vehicle modification and deterioration. Attached was a photo of my keyed car. As proof. I called my lawyer. Put him on speaker. Tom sat in stunned silence as we discussed legal options. "Tom," I asked after hanging up, "would you be willing to share those videos with a judge?" He nodded, then froze. A car door slammed outside. We looked out the window. There was Karen again, clipboard in hand, writing up new violations. She stopped in front of my house, stared at my car. She was wearing the same pink robe from the footage. She wanted me to know. I smiled. Opening my laptop, I browsed local real estate listings, clicked buy on the first available home, then another and another. Tom stared in disbelief. "What are you doing?" "Just investing in the future." As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. This time the violation was for Tom's doorbell camera. At the bottom, emergency HOA board meeting, mandatory attendance. I smirked. Karen had no clue how many homes I could buy before tomorrow night. By sunset I owned 6. Through different names, and Karen still thought I was just another guy with a sticker. But I wasn't. I was the storm she never saw coming. The judge. He nodded eagerly, then froze as we heard a car door slam outside. Through my window, we watched Karen Emily marching up and down the street, pink clipboard in hand, writing up more violations. She stopped in front of my house, her face twisting into a sneer as she spotted my car. That's when I noticed something odd. She was wearing the same pink robe from the security footage. My stomach dropped. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. She wanted me to know it was her. "I thought I was just buying a nice house in a quiet neighborhood," I told Tom Hiddleston, watching Karen photograph my damaged car. "But I think I just found a much better investment opportunity." I pulled up the real estate listings for our neighborhood, clicking buy on the first available house, then another and another. Tom stared at my screen in disbelief. "What are you doing?" I smiled, forwarding the purchase confirmations to my lawyer. "Karen wants to play games with property values. Let's see how she handles a new neighbor with very deep pockets." As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. Another violation notice, this time for unauthorized surveillance equipment. She'd spotted Tom's doorbell camera, but this notice was different. At the bottom in bold red letters, "Emergency HOA board meeting tomorrow night. Attendance mandatory." Looking at that notice, I couldn't help but wonder, how many other people had Karen broken? And more importantly, how many houses could I buy before tomorrow night's meeting? Tom left with a copy of the video safely backed up to my cloud storage. Through my window, I watched Karen still making her rounds, completely unaware that her little kingdom was about to face its biggest challenge yet. I opened my laptop again, searching for more properties for sale in our neighborhood. One thing was certain. Tomorrow night's meeting was going to be very interesting. Later that evening, I sat in my home office staring at the property map of Oakwood Estates spread across my desk. Red circles marked the 6 houses I'd quietly bought through different company names over the last month. Karen had no idea that while she was busy writing me up for my eyesore of a Tesla, I was becoming one of the biggest property owners in the neighborhood. The previous night, I'd gotten a text from Tom showing Karen taking photos of my car again. This time she'd brought her friend Susan from the board. Both of them stood there, shaking their heads and pointing at my bumper sticker. They looked like kids plotting to steal cookies. Except these cookies cost me $112,000 in paint damage. My phone buzzed. My lawyer confirmed the paperwork was ready. Perfect timing. Tonight was the monthly HOA meeting, where Karen planned to fine me for the very damage she caused. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so infuriating. Walking into the community center, I noticed Karen had rearranged the chairs into a half-circle, putting herself on a raised platform like some kind of small-town judge. She barely looked up when I walked in, just kept shuffling her papers with that smug smile I'd grown to hate. Other neighbors filtered in, including Tom, who gave me a subtle thumbs up. "First order of business," Karen announced, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "We need to address the growing problem of vehicle deterioration in our community. Mr. Harrison, your Tesla has become an eyesore with its extensive scratches and unauthorized modifications." I stayed quiet, watching her dig her own grave. She pulled up photos on the projector, zooming in on the scratches she made herself. "As per our bylaws, we'll be issuing a $500 fine, which will repeat weekly until the situation is remedied." That's when I stood up. My lawyer walked in, right on cue. "Actually, Karen," I said, "I'd like to call for a vote on that." The room went silent. You could hear the AC humming. "Excuse me?" Karen's face reddened. "You don't have the authority to, as the owner of 478 Maple Drive, 223 Oak Lane, 891 Pine Street, 654 Birch Road, 432 Cedar Avenue, and 767 Elm Court," my lawyer began. "My client controls 30% of the voting rights in this association." The color drained from Karen's face. Several board members started whispering. Susan dropped her pen. But Karen wasn't done. She straightened her jacket, regaining composure. "Well, that's very interesting timing, Mr. Harrison," she said. "But as it happens, the board has already drafted emergency rules requiring all vehicle modifications, including bumper stickers, to be pre-approved by our new appearance committee." She gestured to her daughter, Jessica, who I hadn't noticed sitting in the corner. "Jessica will be heading this committee." "Point of order," I said, pulling out my own copy of the HOA bylaws. "Emergency rules require 72 hours notice to all homeowners. Where's the documentation of that notice?" Karen's smile faltered. "We sent emails." "To which addresses? Because I've checked with 15 neighbors, none of them received anything." I glanced at Tom, who nodded in confirmation. The meeting dissolved into chaos. Karen tried to adjourn early, but I called for an immediate vote of no confidence in her leadership. We didn't win. She'd stacked the board too well. But the look of panic in her eyes told me everything. She knew this was only the beginning. Walking to my car afterward, I heard quick footsteps behind me. It was Jessica, Karen's daughter, nervous but determined. "You think you're so clever," she hissed. "But Mom's been running this neighborhood for 15 years. You have no idea what she's capable of." I smiled, opening the door to my scratched Tesla. "That's where you're wrong, Jessica. I know exactly what she's capable of. The real question is, does she know what I'm capable of?" As I drove home, I pulled up an email from my private investigator. The subject line read, "Thompson Financial Holdings ownership records found." Karen's perfect little kingdom was about to face a revolution. The next morning I was walking my dog when Tom ran toward me, out of breath. "You need to see this," he said, pulling out his phone. The screen showed Karen screaming at Linda, our elderly neighbor, while her cronies ripped out Linda's prized rose garden, the roses she'd planted in memory of her late husband. My blood boiled, but I stayed calm. "Send it to me," I said. Back home, I opened my laptop and started digging. Turns out Tom wasn't the only one with stories. My inbox was flooded with security footage. Karen harassing Mr. Bryan about his garden gnomes until he moved out. Threatening Elizabeth, a single mom, over her kids' sidewalk chalk. Fining the Williams family because their son's wheelchair ramp wasn't aesthetically pleasing. I called an emergency meeting at my house. 20 neighbors showed up, each with their own Karen horror story. Linda brought empanadas. Her hands were still dirty from trying to save her roses. Mr. Bryan joined via video chat from his son's home. He'd been forced to move after Karen's relentless fines bankrupted him. "She's not just mean," Elizabeth said, bouncing her toddler on her knee. "She's breaking the law, but no one can afford to fight her in court." That's when I shared my plan. My plan was simple, strategic. I pulled up the property records on my TV screen, revealing how I'd quietly purchased 6 houses in the neighborhood. Tom Hiddleston's eyes widened as realization dawned on him. But the true shock came when Linda's daughter, Apargal, pulled up an old county zoning map on her tablet. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. "Karen Emily's been enforcing rules on land that's not even part of the HOA." We all leaned in, the energy in the room shifting from anger to determination. We weren't just victims anymore. We had legal grounds to fight back. Just then, my home security system pinged. A notification popped up. Karen's daughter, Chelsea, had officially joined the HOA board that morning. They thought they were tightening their grip. They had no idea I was already 3 steps ahead. While everyone was focused on the zoning map, I received another email, confirmation of my purchase of 3 additional properties in Oakwood Estates. But that wasn't the best part. My investigation into their mortgage company had just paid off. I had uncovered something massive, something that would wipe those smug smiles off their faces for good. Tom helped me set up a secure website where neighbors could anonymously upload evidence of Karen's harassment. Elizabeth's teenage son, a tech whiz, organized the data by date, violation type, and victim. It was cleaner than anything the HOA had ever compiled. Mr. Bryan, now living with his son out of town, joined via video chat. He reached out to old neighbors and started collecting documentation. Within hours, we had a decade's worth of abuse, fines, selective enforcement, and footage. As the group worked late into the night, buckets of water filled with Linda's uprooted roses sat on my kitchen counter, waiting to be replanted. First, though, we had to end Karen's reign of terror. No one knew yet that I owned their mortgage company. That card would be played at exactly the right moment. We could feel it. Karen and Chelsea were planning something. Their emergency HOA meeting was scheduled for tomorrow night to discuss community deterioration. They had no idea we'd be discussing a very different kind of deterioration: their power. As I looked around my living room, filled with neighbors who had become friends, I realized something. This wasn't about my keyed Tesla anymore. This was about standing up to people who thought power gave them the right to abuse others. As the meeting wrapped up, Linda paused at my door. "You know they'll try to destroy you too, right?" she asked quietly. I smiled. Let them try. My phone buzzed. Another property purchase confirmed. In a few hours, Karen Emily would learn the hard way. Sometimes the quietest neighbor is the most dangerous one to cross. I walked into the community center the next evening with my laptop under my arm and calm in my chest. Karen sat at her usual chair, wearing her signature pearls and that same smug smile she always wore before ruining someone's week. The room was packed. She'd made sure every homeowner was aware this was a mandatory emergency meeting about community standards. But the standards we were about to discuss weren't hers. My hands weren't shaking. They hadn't since Tom helped me install 5 hidden cameras around the room. We were going to record every second. Karen's daughter, Sarah, stood near the projector, probably ready to show everyone pictures of my scratched Tesla. "Before we begin," I said, standing up, cutting Karen off before she could speak, "I have a few things to share." Murmurs echoed across the room as I plugged in my laptop. Sarah blinked in confusion as her PowerPoint disappeared and was replaced by a paused video. "This meeting has an agenda," Karen snapped. "Actually, I think we'll be sticking to mine," I said, and clicked play. The footage was crystal clear. Karen, 6:43 a.m., 3 weeks ago, dragging her keys across my Tesla. Then another clip. Then another. Sarah lunged for the laptop, but Tom Hiddleston was already in position and blocked her. "Don't worry," I told the stunned crowd. "I've got copies, including the one sent to the police this morning." Karen jumped up, her designer purse falling to the floor. "He's lying. This is fake. I would never." Her voice cracked as the next clip showed her scratching Linda's car. "Remember when you told Mrs. Chen her garage door was the wrong shade of white?" I clicked to the next slide. "Here are the property records showing you approved the exact same color for your friend Barbara last year. And here's the contract your daughter's company got the painting job." The room exploded. Mr. Bryan stood up, shaking with fury, pointing his cane. She did the same thing to me, said my gnomes were unapproved lawn decorations, but Barbara's flamingos were fine. I raised a hand. It gets better. Remember that mortgage company that bought your house when you refinanced? The one that gave you that amazing interest rate? I pulled out a folder. I own it. I've owned it for weeks. Just like I own the company that's been quietly buying up properties across Oakwood Estates. Sarah screamed, "You can't do this! This is our neighborhood. My mom has run this HOA for 15 years. Had run it," I corrected, and held up another document. The State Attorney General's office is very interested in the pattern of selective enforcement we've documented. Especially curious about where all those HOA fines have gone. I turned to the crowd. Did you know our fees went up 60% last year, yet no record of any community improvements? Karen suddenly lunged toward the computer, knocking over chairs. "I won't let you ruin everything I've built." She grabbed at the laptop but tripped over a cord and sent it crashing to the floor. It didn't matter. The footage kept playing on the projector. Now it was a clip of her tearing up Linda's garden. At midnight, the room went silent. Karen got up slowly, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "I did everything for this community. Without me, this place would look like a real neighborhood," Linda said, rising to her feet and holding up her phone. "By the way, Karen, you're live on Facebook right now. My cousin works for Channel 5 News. She's loving this." Blue and red lights flashed through the windows. Karen's face turned ghostly pale. Sarah made a break for the back door, but Tom's wife Jenny was already there, phone in hand, more evidence queued up. "Oh," I added, turning back to Karen, "I almost forgot the best part. Remember when you said my bumper sticker was ruining property values?" I clicked to the final slide, a real estate report showing how Oakwood's values had dropped 15% under Karen's leadership, while surrounding neighborhoods saw gains. "Turns out," I said, "the only thing hurting property values around here was you." The police walked in just as Karen made one last desperate lunge for the projector. But it was too late. Everything was documented, backed up, shared, and now in the hands of Officer Robert. As they led Karen and Sarah out in handcuffs, I peeled the old Save the Bees sticker off my Tesla and replaced it with a new one. It read, "Karma comes full circle." The next morning I found a rock thrown through my front window. A handwritten note taped to it read, "Leave Oakwood Estates or else." Perfect. That was exactly what I needed to finish this once and for all. In my briefcase, I carried enough evidence to end Karen Emily's reign of terror for good. "Before we begin," I said, rising to my feet just as Karen prepared to launch into her usual speech, "I have some interesting security footage to share." The projector flickered to life. First, there she was, Karen keying not just my Tesla, but Mrs. Johnson's minivan and Tom Hiddleston's new Prius. The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Karen jumped up, her face red as a tomato. "That video is fake!" she shrieked. "He's trying to destroy our beautiful community!" But then I played the audio. Her voice, unmistakable, muttering about teaching us all a lesson. Next came the spreadsheets. Every illegal fine she'd ever issued, every family she'd forced out, every dollar she'd collected through her bogus community improvement fees. I had spent months working with a forensic accountant to track every transaction, and the best part? I'd already sent everything to the FBI's white-collar crime division. Karen tried to recover. "You think you're so smart," she hissed, grabbing her designer purse, "but you have no idea who you're dealing with. My husband's law firm will—" "My husband's law firm," I interrupted, smiling. "You mean the one that just got bought out last week? Guess who signed those papers?" The look on her face made every penny worth it. That's when her daughter Sarah tried to flee with a box of documents. But Officer Robert, whom I'd invited after filing police reports, was already waiting at the exit. Those documents? They proved Karen had been forging signatures on HOA paperwork for years. The next few hours felt like watching dominoes fall in slow motion. The police led Karen and Sarah out in handcuffs. The State Attorney General's office launched a full-scale investigation. The remaining board members, sensing they were next, started confessing everything, every shady deal, every unethical vote, every cover-up. But the real victory came 3 months later. Using my tech background, I launched a neighborhood app that allowed residents to vote directly on community decisions. No more secret meetings or abuse of power. Families that Karen had forced out began moving back in, thanks to the reduced-rate housing I'd made available using the properties I'd acquired. Mr. Bryan's famous garden gnome collection returned, bigger than ever. Linda's native plant garden became a certified butterfly sanctuary visited by local schools. Tom Hiddleston started a weekend farmers market in the community center's parking lot. Even Mrs. Johnson, who'd nearly lost her home to one of Karen's phony fines, became the new president of our community board. Last week I received a letter from Karen's prison cell. She demanded I remove my Save the Bees sticker because it still violated HOA guidelines. I had it framed, and I hung it next to my Community Service Award. My Tesla now proudly displays an entire row of bumper stickers, each one representing a family that came back home. Sometimes, at night, I sit on my porch and watch kids ride their bikes past houses with rainbow-colored doors, vegetable gardens, and solar panels. Everything Karen once banned, the property values she used to obsess over, they've gone up 30% since she left, thanks to our reputation as the most inclusive, sustainable community in the state. People often ask if I regret spending so much money just to take down one power-hungry HOA president. But when I see Mr. Bryan teaching neighborhood kids how to plant tomatoes in our new community garden, right where Karen's precious roses used to be, I know it was worth every cent. Because real community isn't about fines and fear. It's about people. It's about neighbors coming together. And that little Save the Bees sticker that started it all? It's still there, a little scratched, but unbowed. Just like our community. The information in this video is for informational and entertainment purposes only. I woke up one morning to find my Tesla keyed from headlight to windshield. The culprit? Our HOA president. I thought it was just petty vandalism, until I uncovered a web of power abuse, forged fines, and financial corruption. So I did what any tech-savvy, underestimated millionaire would do. I bought half the neighborhood. With security footage, legal records, and the support of my neighbors, we dismantled her fake kingdom brick by brick. The woman who once fined us for wind chimes and gnome collections, she left in handcuffs. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about standing up to bullies who hide behind bylaws and fake authority. It's a reminder that silence gives power to the wrong people, and that sometimes the quietest neighbor is the one with the loudest impact. So if you've ever felt powerless against your HOA, your boss, or any local tyrant, this channel is for you. Hit subscribe and follow for real stories, wild takedowns, and a community that believes in justice, strategy, and a little bit of karma. Welcome to HOA Revenge, where we don't just fight back, we win.